I should have had a beer.
You're crushing comedy. When do you like start doing nationwide tours and stuff? Or
Yeah, so I start.
Or do you get into acting? What's your next?
Yeah, so I start doing a little bit of the road, and then Bill Burr comes to the DC Improv, and he says, well, him and Ted Alexandro kind of both say, the best thing about your act is your act outs. And I said, oh, I guess that my punchlines aren't that funny. They're like, no, when you're acting out your punchline, that's the best thing about your act. Yeah. Like, you should go to LA. You're a pretty okay looking guy. I was like, thank you guys. Go to LA.
Pretty okay.
Right.
Strive high.
Right. And Bill was like, I'll let you open for me a couple times. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's awesome.
And so he walked me so I put a plan in motion. I was like, I'll move to LA in a year. Moved out here, and he walked me into the Comedy Store. And so it was like I got here, and then I booked. I think I booked like the fourth audition I ever had, like one of the stories. Yeah. So I booked the sitcom for Comedy Central with Bobby Lee from Mad TV.
Yeah.
And then I found out that pilots don't always go. It was a great experience.
Wait, so what I missed there? You moved here. How did you get representation, or how did you start going out on auditions?
Well, here's the thing. I always tell people, like, if you want to get representation and you don't have any acting credits, improv or stand up are the two ways that people like kind of fawn over people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and podcasts.
And podcasts. The new fawner, you know what I mean? So if you listening, reps, you got one right here. He's a star. Big Mike. Sorry, I just gave you a nickname without your approval.
It's funny because compared to you, I'm not big. It's funny.
Well, bigger than average, Mike. So I got out here and
people saw you on stage and brought you in. I don't get that.
I think I did the mailings.
Oh, to reps.
Yeah. So okay. I just had my stand up on it and then did the mailings and got to meetings.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So you had an agent submitting you to these auditions.
Yes.
Got you.
Yes.
Got you. And because Bill Burr said the best part of your routine is acting out, you were like, that means I should act?
I got here, and the first thing I was like, I need to get into an acting class.
Okay.
Right? So, let's make this very clear. So I got here, and for the first, my thought was, for the first 2 years, all I'm trying to do is find out what the stand-up circuit is, get up and do stand-up, and take as many classes as I can.
Smart. That's
so
smart.
I was taking improv classes at Second City, at UCB, taking acting classes, and I was like, all I'm doing is trying to learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I took a class at Leslie Kahn's, and I was like, I am so far out of my league with this. Like, and so the thing is that everybody was supposed to, at Leslie's, like everybody, and I think the same thing at John's, right? Everyone's supposed to rehearse every day.
Yeah.
And so I was pulling people like, yo, we got to rehearse every day.
Yeah.
And other people were looking at me like, that's just what you like. I was like, no, I don't know how to act. I got to rehearse every day. Because I was like, I have to figure out how to catch up to these people.
Yeah.
And the only way I know is like, I'm like, well,
put in the work.
The great thing is if you guys aren't doing this every day, if I do, now I'm shortening that gap, right?
Absolutely.
And so I started doing that. And so I was just focusing on acting. And I think after the first year, I got an agent. And I did, I think someone saw me at a stand-up show, and I did this show on BT called Hell Date, which was like a prank dating show, you know what I mean? Which it's not really acting. It's really just improv kind of thing. And then started submitting, trying to get representation. And that was a great thing about Leslie's and John's type of classes, where they start to talk to you about the business. And I was like, I feel like I'm getting inside kind of information, because I was at a different acting studio before that Bill sent me to, and we were like working on like plays and stuff like that. I was like, I don't want to do no plays, man. I ain't come out here to be in no theater, dude. I want to be on TV. This is TV face. I got TV and film face. I want to do TV and film. And so I found out about Leslie's, and then they started to talk about the business, which I had, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know anything. Right. You know what I mean? I didn't know how the process worked. I didn't know how auditions worked. I didn't know about casting workshops and all that stuff. So I was like, wow, like, I know people who've probably been out here years who don't know any of this as well. Yeah. Because they've been at studios like the other.
Yeah.
You know? And so when I finally got representation, then I went in for a casting director by the name of Nicole Garcia, who became a manager after a couple of years. And she was working with me for like 45 minutes for this Comedy Central thing. And then she was like, okay, I'm gonna call you back to producers. And I was like, cool, I can work with it. In my head, I'm like, I can coach with it on Leslie, and she'll tell me how to do this. And I'll just do it, say it how she tell me to say it,
yeah.
so I can get it. And she was like, well, the audition is in an hour. So,
oh, wow.
But basically, it meant I had time to get in my car. And she wanted me to change my shirt because I had a funny shirt on. I was a stand-up. I was like, here, you're going to love this funny shirt. It's a comedy. She was like, no, you're kind of more the straight guy, but not so straight. You know, she's like, change your shirt. So I was like,
what did your shirt say? DawanOwens.com?
It said, I love black people. I lie to you not. I'm so ashamed.
That's funny.
It did.
That's really funny.
There used to be a website, iloveblackpeople.com.
That's funny.
And they used to have these shirts, I love black people, and I had it on.
That's funny.
So my only thought was like, all I knew was like, Leslie would always talk about be the character. So I was like, it was like this thug type of dude. And so I was like, well, on the way there, I'm gonna just be the dude, like driving through traffic. I put on some music that was like some Biggie or something, was like yelling at people in traffic, like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, and then I went in the room. It was like 40 people, which was weird. Like, even now, when I test for stuff or like I go to producer sessions, like it's never that many people. I think that may have been the biggest audition I've ever had with the most people in the room. And it was with Bobby Lee so it was a chemistry at the same time, which I didn't know. I was like,
they just threw you into the fire earlier when you got
the great
there.
thing is I didn't know what a producer session was in the first place.
Yeah.
So like for most people, you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna walk in, it'll be 3 people, like 2 producers and a director or whatever, maybe, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like I walk in as 40 people, I'm like, oh, this is what a producer session is. Oh, I'm reading with Bobby Lee. You know, right now I'd be like, why am I reading with Bobby Lee in a producer? Like my head would start going through the past. Like this doesn't happen in a producer session. This is not a producer session. This is a test. You try to trick me. You know what I mean? And so I got it.
That's amazing.
And then it didn't go.